Okay, it is about that time. We want to start fairly prompt. Again, I appreciate everybody joining us today. I know it's tough making time any day, but especially on a beautiful Friday like today. So, but I sure do appreciate it. Today, we've got a real treat. I've got Joy Beland is joining us. Joy is with Connectwise, which is a humongous company. Has over 1,000 employees and does over 400 million a year. And she's going to talk to us today about cybersecurity. I know you guys have heard me beat the topic to death, but I wanted to bring in a real expert that has an even greater scope than what we see. And she brings a lot of good experience to the table. I like the way Joy does things because she can see it from our perspective. For 21 years, she actually ran a company very similar to ComTech over in LA. No, that's not Lower Alamance. You won't get that joke, Joy, but the rest of them will. But then she went to work for Connectwise and is now the education director at Connectwise. So she has a lot of different certifications and so forth. And I don't want to bore you with that long list. I just want to let her get started because she's got the interesting stuff to tell us. So I appreciate you guys paying attention. Feel free to use the Q&A box in Zoom there, and we will try to get all of your questions answered. There's going to be a Q&A at the end. And of course, all of you know how to get in touch with me if you need anything afterwards. So Joy, I'm going to make you the host and let you take it away. So,
super. You can see my screen already, right?
Yes, I can. Can everyone else see her slide? Everything look okay, guys?
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that introduction, Mike. I love doing what I do. I have to say, I feel like one of the luckiest people on the planet. For 21 years, as Mike said, I had my own managed service provider business in Los Angeles. But what I did is I aligned myself closely with law enforcement back in 2014 when cybersecurity started to become something that was definitely a threat, not just to my clients' businesses, but to my own business. Because as a cybersecurity and IT service provider, I had my own small business. So when I aligned myself with law enforcement, I worked closely with the FBI, the Secret Service Cybercrimes Division, InfraGard, LA District Attorney's Office, several different areas to educate myself as fast as I could. And then my role really began to take shape as an educator of small businesses around cybersecurity. So when I sold my practice in 2018 and came to work with Connectwise, specifically I deal in cybersecurity education for small businesses. And what I love about what I do is I'm not here to sell anyone anything. I'm here to educate and make sure that people understand what those risks are so at least they can make informed decisions about where they're going to invest their resources. And as such, one of the prime ways that I am able to talk about what cybercrime means in the United States is by walking through an annual report issued by the IC3. So this is a organization put together by the FBI, and what they do is they culminate all of the statistics from the businesses, whether they're small, medium, or large, across the United States. Anyone that has been hit with any kind of cybercrime reports it to this entity, the IC3, so that the FBI can make some progress in being able to establish what are the biggest threats and how can they best serve the community in being able to help us fight cybercrime. So the statistics that I'm showing you have been updated every year. I think in 2014 is when they first started collecting these statistics. And as you can see, nationwide, it's really an issue. I'm going to walk through some of those top threats and then talk a little bit about why this is happening so that everybody can kind of understand. What we're seeing far and away, two big things that are hitting small businesses, all businesses, but really small businesses. Number one, and you have to forgive that there's a lot of acronyms in cybersecurity, but I'm going to help you when we see these. BEC stands for Business Email Compromise. And then ransomware is another form that a lot of people are seeing. Business email compromise, look at the difference in loss compared to that. I mean, far and away, 1.8 billion dollars there just in 2019 alone. The next closest one at 475 million is the business, what they call fraud or romance. And really that's the old con game. That's the hackers taking advantage of people's willingness to want to do the right thing. So as end users, anyone that's using their computer over the years now, we're so trusting. We want to do the right thing. And so in our efforts to research things, to give people what they're asking for, we're being fooled into providing really sensitive information or funds where we shouldn't be. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of these because I think that it's so important. And I know that for this for me is a staggering statistic, and this is the truth. Every 14 seconds in the United States, a new ransomware attack is hitting. I know, Mike, you recently had an experience with this as well, right?
Yes, we sure did. We don't see it very often, but when we do, each time it's pretty devastating. Now, luckily, this just happened a few weeks ago during tax season. It was an accounting firm, and they got hit with ransomware, and it ripped through the entire network and locked down every machine, every server. We ended up it did it over a weekend, and we ended up spending over 100 hours over that weekend, 100 man hours, putting everything back together, doing restores and getting them back operational because they had deadlines, they had taxes to do. These things always happen at the worst times, but it went to demonstrate that, again, this is not a Pepsi Cola. This is not a large company. This is just small hometown CPA firm, and got hit by it, and it's happening to everybody.
And you know what? There's a couple of things about that you just said that are really interesting because number one, they were hit right before tax season. And if you think that the organized cybercrime doesn't know that, like if they get into a network and they say, oh my gosh, this is a person or an entity that has something to do with taxes, we can really lay some serious pressure on them. So they know the value of the data according to what kind of business you are, what you do. Most importantly, they just know that your data is important to you and you're willing to pay money to get it back, right? So,
Joy, that brings up a good point. Just in case some of the attendees here may not know, I'm sure they've seen ransomware in the news, but they may not know what exactly it is. Could you tell them what ransomware is?
I'm happy to. Ransomware is a form of malware that what happens is a remote attacker will get access to your network. And there's several different ways they can get access to your network. And I'm going to walk through some of those methods here. But essentially what happens is once they get into your computer, they can travel through the network and they can discover what you have on there, in the type, what kind of data. They can get in and read your emails so they can see what kind of transactions you're doing by email. And what they do is they deploy a malware that crawls through the network. It starts on the one computer that they got into generally, or they might deploy it on the server itself as opposed to one of the computers. And what that malware does is it goes through and it encrypts every piece of data. So instead of you opening up your file explorer and seeing your list of files, you see those files there with names that are all gobbledygook. And if you try to open them, it says that it can't open them. And so all you have is screenfuls of gobbledygook everywhere. And what happens is they then say, we've deployed ransomware on your network. If you want to get your data back, you have to pay us money. And they extort money from you. The money's in the form of Bitcoin normally, because that's not traceable back to them as the entity. And once you pay that Bitcoin, they give you what they call a de-encryption key. Then becomes the job of the IT pro at that point, if they've brought somebody like ComTech in, to take that de-encryption key and apply it to all of the data on the network. But it takes hours to days to weeks for that process to go through and unencrypt all of that data. So you might have access to the data again. Everything might be fully restored, but it's a long matter of time. It costs you an awful lot of money. In the meantime, you had a downtime scenario that you have to keep telling your clients or your customers, we don't have access to that. And whether or not, then you have to decide, you know, what about your brand reputation? Do you tell them you've been hit with some kind of a ransom? I would recommend not. But you may not get away from, you know, having to disclose something about it, depending on how long your business is down. And so we'll talk a little bit more about this, but it's pretty scary, the fact that they're wielding such a large sword against, and small businesses generally are not investing the resources that they need to because they don't think that they are going to fall prey to this kind of crime. But let's talk about why I think this is so important and what I'm seeing. First of all, I want to give you a brief description of what the dark web is, because a lot of people look at it or hear the dark web and they really don't understand what it is. I would describe it as a hidden superhighway of information. So if we were to compare it to this iceberg that you're looking at the very top of the iceberg, you see that what we see normally as computer users is just that top section of normal websites. So you get there with a normal browser on a normal computer with a normal skill set. Day to day, all of us know how to use Google, Yahoo, Outlook, banking websites, Amazon, things like that. So those are normal websites, normal browsers, normal skill sets. A lot of them ask you to give a username and a password to log in, and most people are going to use consistently the same email address and then a password to log in. A lot of people are using the same password to log into multiple websites. Now, right below that, we have what's called the deep web. And if you're an organization, generally the company's data is going to be in the deep web. So it's not visible to anybody that's just out there doing normal surfing on the internet. You have to have a corporate access capability. So whether it's behind a firewall at your office and you have customer databases, health records, payroll information, whatever that is, or if you have some kind of like two-factor authentication or special access to a web-based Dropbox, OneDrive, you know, Salesforce, whatever it is that your company utilizes. So that is something that's gated behind normal public viewing, right, in the deep web. The dark web is that whole separate form of transportation, of communication, if you will, on the internet. You can't get there with a regular browser or a regular skill set. The average person is going to have to go through some training and have specialized tools to get into the dark web. So what happens? Somebody's username and password is stolen. So they get onto your computer somehow, or they manipulate you into thinking you're signing into your Google account, but actually you're on a malicious website that is a fake and you don't know it. So you're giving your Google email address and your Google password, or your Microsoft Office email address and Office password. So as soon as that's stolen in the dark web and posted for sale, all the bad guys are down there browsing and trying to see what credentials they can buy, because the minute that they get that, they take it back up to the top level and they have these password cracking programs that will pepper thousands of websites at one time with that email address and that password to try to break into a bunch of additional information. So one stolen credential could actually lead to getting into a whole bunch of access to different things, including company information that would normally be in the deep web. So the thing is that once they get in and get those compromised credentials, oftentimes those bad guys are going to be on the corporate network looking through what you have for 6 months or more. Just like the accountant in the CPA scenario, they want to know what they have access to so that they know how much money can they demand as ransom, or can they just steal all of this data and sell it for even more money on the dark web, or both. That's the scary thing, right? The record right now is set by a Russian hacker who found some compromised credentials, bought them on the dark web, and was inside a corporate network of a large corporation within 19 minutes. So the clock is ticking. You really need to know and be monitoring the dark web, and there are services that can do that, so that if you have any compromised credentials, you find out about it and you can get in there and change that password right away. So the dark web, being able to find out what happens from there, where it's business email compromise or ransomware or whatever they decide to do to be malicious and try to get money out of you. In 2019, the minimum was 36,000. Like, these are not small little bills. These are not a small business owner saying, well, I'll pay the $500 and I'm just going to go on about my business. Oh, heck no. They are demanding an awful lot of money now. It ranges anywhere from $36,000 to $58,000 that I see as the average per attack for small business. And here's the thing, even if you have really good backups, and companies like ComTech have been doing backups for years and years. I mean, you guys are pros. It's like not even a thought. Even if you have really good backups, the bad guys are now stealing the data before they even deploy ransomware. Before you even know that they're on your network, they're stealing that data so that if you turn around and say, I'm not going to pay the ransom because I have a really good backup, they're going to go ahead and just sell that information on the dark web. So you still have exposure of all of your clients' private data, maybe your employees' W-2 information, payroll information, all of that stuff is getting sold on the dark web. And so it's a double whammy. The best thing that you can do is protect yourself in the first place, as opposed to waiting and seeing if you can just deal with the fallout. So
that's a good point, Joy. If I could jump in real quick. The CPA firm was a perfect example. They didn't lose any data because we had everything backed up, but the recovery time to get all of the machines reloaded, get all the programs reloaded, put the data back in place and get everything back up. I said that was 100 man hours of labor to get it done. So just because you didn't pay the ransom and just because you have the data doesn't mean it's going to be a quick recovery. The pain is still there.
And you don't, there's two unknowns about that too, is were they able to steal any data before they deployed the ransomware? Because those are tax returns of people. And then the second thing is, are they now going to be added to a list of people that were hit with ransomware? Because they're trading that information on the dark web as well. So you just don't know. It's really scary to think what might happen if you're not protecting it. Keep them from coming in the house in the first place. And we're going to walk through that example. But real quickly, organized cybercrime is making more money than all other forms of organized crime combined. So I don't know if you watched Narcos, the series, but we have drug trafficking, arms and weapons trade, we have sex trafficking, we have all these other forms of organized crime worldwide. If you add all of those up together, it's not as much money as being made on organized cybercrime. That's how big and well organized this is. So, what I have here is an example that was put out there by Proofpoint or Checkpoint Research at the RSA conference last year, showing the mappings of the org chart of an organized cybercrime syndicate. This is a real organized cybercrime syndicate. I'm looking at it and I'm like, this looks like an org chart. It's got, at the top right-hand corner, if you replace the kingpin with the president or the CEO, going all the way down through who handles the money, just like the CFO, who handles the operations, COO, who handles the technical stuff, the CTO, and then all the way down in the bottom left-hand corner, you've got the victim, who in a normal org chart, that's our customers at the end. So they know exactly what they're doing. So I wanted to dispel a couple of myths about the small businesses not understanding what a big target they are. And this is why my mission as a human being is to save as many small businesses as I can from cybercrime. What I've seen over the years is that small businesses, number one, they just don't have the same budget. No small business I knew was going to be able to afford a $40,000 firewall. And that's a low-end firewall put in at an enterprise level company. So that the big guys know how to protect themselves properly. They have more money and they dedicate a larger percentage of their budget to cybersecurity. The other thing is that a lot of times with the small business, and I saw this over and over again, and it's not to blame anybody, but they want to make the best use of the resources they have. So oftentimes an owner will say, well, my cousin John knows how to set up a new machine. I'm just going to have him install a new machine on our office, and then if anything goes wrong, we'll call in our IT guys and they'll fix it. But the problem is the cousin John may be pretty adept at, IT skills here and there, or the dedicated person at the office who's kind of savvy and they want to help out to do stuff IT related. None of those people actually have cybersecurity skills. So what happens is that your office may be made more productive. You may think that you're saving yourself money or resources in one way or another, but what you're doing is you're opening up vulnerabilities. It's the same as leaving your office door unlocked at night and thinking that you've done a good job in allocating resources the right way. So it's just an unsuspecting, like, people really mean well, but what they don't know in cybersecurity can substantially impact their business. And so what you don't know about cybersecurity skills when it comes to implementing any kind of IT, whether it's a device or a software application, that can turn around and bite you in the ass. So the other thing is, small businesses generally, they're going to like ride that horse until it dies. So that, a lot of them will have Windows 7 computers, and it's like they just don't want to let go of it because it's been functioning well, even though they've been told over and over that Windows 10 has to be what's on their network because it's so much more secure. So they don't replace equipment as it gets older. And they're wearing so many hats, just trying to keep in charge of all the different things they need to do. So it's very low priority to be focusing on IT and cybersecurity. One of the things that was astounding to me, this is a look from Symantec, and Symantec is one of the biggest players in cybersecurity. They have been for years. They did a study to see the different sizes of businesses, how many emails were coming through that were actually infected emails, whether they had a malicious attachment on the email or a link to a website that was malicious or fraudulent in some way. And when they did this study, it was pretty astounding because of this difference in resources that's allocated between a small business and an enterprise level business. A small business was receiving an average of 6 of those malicious emails. But if you look at a company that had more than 2,500 employees, they were receiving an average of 11 emails. So if you look at the disparate ratio between a small business and a company that has thousands of employees, you can see how the odds are against the small businesses for being able to get away with just, a wing and a prayer, that no one's going to click on something that they shouldn't be clicking on. And then when it comes to looking at who are the actual victims of cybercrime, this is a Verizon DBIR report. It's one of the most famous in our industry in cybersecurity. In 2018, they found that the percentage of small businesses, or the percentage of victims, 58% were small businesses. In 2019, that's gone to 64% of all victims are actually small businesses. So, Mike, you know this as well as I do, but there's so many objections that a small business owner will give us. And part of the training I do is talking about that with the solution providers like ComTech, because we have to know how to answer these questions in a way that's meaningful. And so one of the questions we get all the time is, I'm a small business owner. Am I really a target? Right? It's just so hard to wrap your head around. It's like, you kind of want to bury your head under the sand. So, Mike, do you want to talk with me about these?
Sure. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I get that all the time. I just had that yesterday, as a matter of fact, someone asked. So these questions that we've got lined up here are very legit, and I hear them almost every day. So, yeah, absolutely. Elaborate on that answer there, Joy.
Yeah, I mean, it's what most of them don't understand is that you don't have to be targeted. You just have to unwittingly have a staff member who received an email or went surfing on Google looking at websites that clicked on something that they shouldn't have. I mean, that's the thing, is that we've made so much of an investment as an industry to protect like the Windows operating system and make sure we have robust firewalls and all of this technology. But what we haven't done is made sure that we've kept up with educating the users. And this is how the small businesses are getting attacked, is that a bad guy will buy a list of 500,000 email addresses that have been tested and they're valid email addresses. You can buy these lists from conferences and say, we want the 500,000 people that went to the Microsoft conference last year. Somebody is probably going to be selling that on the dark web. You know, they get these lists of emails. And so what they do is they craft a really convincing email with a fake website or a malicious attachment, and they send it to 500,000 email addresses. Now, they're not checking to see whether those emails belong to somebody that is even in a specific business. It could be a google.com email address. It could be an AOL.com email address, or it could be a ComTech.com email address. They don't care. They don't care how big or small the company might be for the recipient. All they're doing is casting a wide net in the ocean, and they're trying to see, when they pull that net in, how many fish did they catch. And as we just talked about, small businesses have a lot less layers of security to protect their users from opening that kind of email, being curious and clicking on it, or going on a website because they are searching for something in particular, and they click on a website that's infected and they didn't know it, right? How about the other one? A lot of small businesses have been told over and over that, you know, you just need really good antivirus or a really good backup or a really good firewall. All three of those are super important things, but why is it that that's not enough anymore?
Yeah, I
So
hear
do you want
that
to talk
one
about this one?
I hear that one as well. And I've heard that lately several times in the last few days also, because traditionally that was the design to help keep the small businesses safe. It was the affordable, pretty good method for taking care of it, because anything else was enterprise grade and too expensive. And
Exactly.
so that was our strategy, and that's what everybody used. But now it's just not enough. That's why the subtitle of this seminar is Antivirus Just Isn't Enough Anymore. In a video that I did a week and a half ago that I sent out to most of these folks, it showed that when you run ransomware up against traditional antivirus, 17 out of 19 tests that we did failed. 17 out of 19. Traditional antivirus can't even see these threats. So
Exactly.
that's the problem that unfortunately we're facing right now.
Yeah, I mean, the best way that I could describe that is that traditional antivirus works kind of like, I'm going to give you a visual aid here, kind of works like a phone book, that there's a book or a set of signatures that you might find within a certain kind of a file. It's something like hidden in the code of it, right? And antivirus is going to, before it opens up a document, it's going to refer to its like little Bible of codes and say, oh, wait, you're malicious. I'm going to block you, which was great for many, many years until around 2013. What happened in 2013 is that the people who design viruses and malware realized, well, what if we do something different from the ability to have it researched as a code within the file? And instead they changed how the file behaves within software. So it's a behavior-based type of a tool that you need, as opposed to a file signature-based type of a tool. Traditional antivirus doesn't know how to do that. It was never designed for that, right? So the thing is for me, it kind of feels like, since I was in Mike's shoes for so long as a service provider, it kind of feels like when people were asked to wear a seatbelt when they're driving a car. It's like the car looks the same, feels the same, and back in the 50s, when people were all of a sudden being told that it was the law, that they had to start doing something extra or different for something they've always done, man, were they resistant. Like, I've done studies on this, on behavior and culture change, and they were driving around, and truckers still do. They're driving around, they're like, you are not going to tell me to wear a seatbelt. Well, okay, but chances are you're going to suffer consequences. And the reason that we want you to take a look at doing the same thing but a different way is because all of society is seeing that this is a really big problem. The next one here, why would a criminal want my data? Because they don't think it's that valuable, right? So if I'm a bakery, or if I'm a plumbing store, or if I provide data to people for advertising, why is it that people, anyone would want my data when they can go out there and get it from the big companies?
And I get that question too. I just had that one this morning, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
They said, I'm not really a target for ransomware because my data is not valuable. So.
Yeah. And well, here's the sad truth. It doesn't have to be valuable to the person who, to the hacker that got onto the network. They just know that it's valuable to you. That's the thing. How long can you go without access to any of your company data? That's the $1 million question, if you will, because if you can go 2 days and then, excuse my French, that, shit hits the fan after 2 days, you have to have some kind of a solution in place that's going to be able to keep you going for more than 2 days if somebody ransoms that data, right? If the answer is 2 hours, that's a solution that needs to match. So that's what they're building their entire practice off of. All of the bad guys, all the organized cybercrime, is the knowledge that there's a finite amount of time that you can go without having access to any of your data. And whatever that bridge time is the value of money that they want to try to ransom from you. Okay? The other thing is that a lot of people don't realize what a huge role the humans are playing in this. And I want to talk about this because it kind of leans into why has the role of Mike and his team changed over the last few years so drastically. And if you're on the top right-hand corner of this, you're going to see 91% of the cyber attacks start with some kind of email phishing. So you might say to yourself, well, just fix the email phishing program or problem. Really what the problem boils down to, and I alluded to this earlier, is that cybersecurity is, in order to take a look at a holistic environment, it's not just technology. You shouldn't be considering ComTech and the services that they provide as just technology, because cybersecurity has to incorporate the entire ecosystem, and that means the people, the processes, and the technology. And historically, ComTech, my own company, what we were hired to do was the antivirus, the backup, and the firewall, right? Like you want to be productive and you want to know that you have the right information coming in, the right information coming out. All of a sudden, these bad guys changed it so that the humans are the #1 attack vector. And here's Mike and his team used to dealing with technology, and all of a sudden they're like, we have to change everything we're doing with humans. It's not the technology that's the problem. So we need to look at how are the people using the technology? What do they know or not know? What do they need to know about using the technology? And then are we setting the proper policies in place, implementation, and process to constantly assess what the risk is to the business so that the technology solutions we implement are going to be implemented wisely. Those resources being spent on the technology, we don't want to waste them. So it has to be a holistic, it has to address all 3 pillars. And that's why in the cybersecurity world, one of the first things you learn when you get any cybersecurity certification is that there has to be a boundary between who owns the data and who owns the responsibility. Because Mike and his team are not in charge of the budget to allocate resources, but they want to help inform the process to make sure that the budget is spent the right way. So what a lot of people are starting to understand, small business owners, medium business owners, enterprise level has known this for a long time, because they are the ones who own the data, they also own the liability. And they have a responsibility to be educated around what kind of risks might threaten my business objectives and business goals so that I can make an informed decision as to how to protect it, okay? So the data owner has that liability. Mike and his team have historically served the bottom part of that pie chart. Their information technology and their role has been to implement the solutions that keep you productive and happy. You approve what the budget is, you sit down with them, they say this will make you more productive, these are the solutions that we're recommending. Historically, that's what they've always done. But now they're being asked to wear a third hat or a second hat, if you will. And that is serving the role of information security so that they can tie this together, people, process, technology. And when they're doing that, they're taking a look at what is the risk with you. They're going to make an informed decision with you based on your business goals and what you're deeming to be the most valuable thing in your business, so that they can help make recommendations on what's the best solution for you. I think the best way for us to represent this in a risk conversation is something really relatable to every small business owner. And this is one of my favorite things. Mike, will you help me out with this one? We're
Sure.
going to relate a business to a home, so that you can kind of see how evaluating the value or contents in your home is something that you can translate to risk for your business. It makes it kind of fun and relatable. So, Mike, I'm going to assume that you live in a home, a house, a van by the river, a condo, something like that, right?
Yes, I have a house. Yes.
Okay, cool. So tell me, in your house, what kinds of things do you have of value?
Well, there's big stacks of gold bullion. Let's see. I wish. Let's say there may be jewelry. There's family heirlooms,
Mm-hmm.
pictures, things of
Good.
that nature. Furniture, some old furniture.
Okay.
Electronics.
Now, electronics. So the things you've set up to this point are fairly common for all businesses, if you will, all households. But electronics, now that one would be like saying data in a business, that you have data of value. So electronics of value in a home, there's a lot of different categories of electronics. So would you say that your TV is as valuable as your home computer?
No, not at all. You can replace the TV very easily. The computer has some valuable data on it. So it's a
Right.
productivity tool.
And most people can go without a TV for a week, a month if they had to, but they have to have their computers, right?
Right.
So you can't just say electronics, like you have to kind of drill into, well, wait a minute here, let me understand more how your day-to-day life in your home would be affected by a computer or a laptop being damaged or missing as opposed to a TV, right? So establishing what those things are of value. Now tell me, how do you protect the things of value in your home?
Well, we tend to lock the doors and close the windows.
Okay.
We have a security system.
Okay. Very good.
Let's see, what else do we have? We do have dogs. You'd think this was rehearsed, but it's honestly not.
You actually did really well with my random order. I mix up the random order that I add these things in. But so these are things that most people would have to protect their home assets, right? They've got some insurance. They want to make sure that they have some kind of like a lot of people are using doorbell cameras these days to see who's coming and going at the front door. But neighborhood watch. In some states we have guns, in other states we have baseball bats. It depends who I'm presenting to.
This is North Carolina. We have guns.
Okay, you might just cross out baseball bat and write guns in there, you know. But you can see that there's an awful lot of things that people will put in place to protect their house. So when we're looking at this, what we've done is we've outlined, number one in that first column, those are all things that you want to do to be proactive. Right? And these are things that are going to keep somebody from getting into the house in the first place. Now, once they're in that house, how are you going to know that that you have an intruder, if you will, right? You want an alarm to set off, the motion sensor, things like that. And now that you know that somebody's in the house, how are you going to respond to it? So what we're looking at, if we were to add in the exercise that you and I just did in identifying what's valuable in that house in the first place, and then on the tail end of that, how do you recover after there's been some kind of a break into the home? What we're looking at over the span of this exercise is a risk management conversation. And what this allows us to do is we're comparing this now to what's called the NIST framework of cybersecurity. NIST is the National Information Systems and Technology group put together by the United States government, and its entire purpose is to have a cybersecurity framework where they can walk you through an exercise so that you can determine what is the right security for your business. And those 5 pillars, if you will, that we see right in front of us is how you do it. So we just did a abbreviated version for your home, but really what the goal is for us is to be able to do that in terms of what would be the right cybersecurity for your business. So you can see how we've changed everything on the screen now to represent a cybersecurity solution as opposed to protection for the home. And
so it's
now
not
I
just
know
a
that
firewall anymore.
it's not just a firewall, but this doesn't mean that every one of the things on the grid is important to any specific business. What you want to do is walk through the process of assessing which of these do we need. And if you need one of these or all of these in some form, do you need a light one or do you need a really strong one? It depends on the type of data that you're protecting and all the threats that might be imposed upon it. Now, I know you have this great checklist that you can walk through, right? You have an assessment process.
Yes. As a matter of fact, again, a lot of the folks on this call have actually already received this in the last 10 days. We created this and a program to help fill in the holes that we're seeing in a lot of small businesses in their security plan. But before we created the plan, we needed to identify, just like your chart showed, you have to identify what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to protect. So we created this assessment sheet and we can mark off each area to find out where the holes are. And it's very, very simple. If you put an X on everything you don't have and a check on everything you do have, then you can very easily tell where things might need attention. And just like you said, Joy, it's different for every business. A CPA firm is going to need something completely different than a pet store.
Right.
You know, it's going to be different and may need different varying degrees. But we can use an assessment like this to analyze what the need is and where the holes are. So a lot of you already have this in hand. It's already in your email, as well as an explainer video that goes with it. If any of you that are on the call that have not seen this, then please get with me. I'll be glad to provide it to you, and we can use it as a map to go through and try to figure out, you know, where are the holes, if there are any. Some folks, they don't have any, but most people do.
And that's the good news. And some of these things, and I think what small business owners really need to understand is that some of these things are going to include an implementation process that allows for better policies, better training around the solution with the end users, things that don't necessarily cost money, but they can be coupled or implemented with the solution so that you're really getting the robust people process technology that we started out by talking about. You know, it's not just about buy a solution, stick it on the network, wash your hands and say, okay, now we've done it. It's an ongoing process, and really having the culture of the organization start to understand what their role is in helping these to be successful implementations.
Very good.
So we talked a little bit about antivirus versus what is happening now with the malware, traditional antivirus. One of the things in the solution stack that Mike is talking about, it's important for me to make sure you understand. And this is the game changer. When I had my business, all of my clients had what we call EDR, endpoint detection and response. The beauty of this is that it's so much more than antivirus. So this is what can help to address ransomware. Like 99-point-something% of ransomware is thwarted with just this solution. And the reason it's so important is that it detects threats, first of all, with that behavior style hunt that it does, as opposed to a signature based, okay? So immediately when it's installed on a network, if there's improper behavior happening with any of the applications or the system itself, bam, they know about it. And that's what's really important, because it would have made it past the antivirus. If all you're doing is antivirus, you've probably got something going on. The next thing is that it can help to build a storyline of how did this happen? Because the tools themselves lay out a timeline with all of the different processes and what's happening, so that you can trace back and say, this is how that happened. Right now, a lot of antivirus solutions, when they're not blocking something, it gets through. You're sitting there scratching your head going, well, how do we make sure it doesn't happen again? Well, we can tell you how it's happening. The third part of this, it's super important, and this is different from antivirus, is that this has the ability to roll the system back. So let's say that an encryption starts to happen, where our SOC sees it. A SOC, by the way, here we are with another acronym, Security Operations Center, man 24/7, but the SOC would see this kind of activity, disconnect that computer from the network so it doesn't travel through the network, hitting all of the computers. But in there, disconnecting it from the network, they have a way of staying connected to just that one machine, which is the beauty of it, right? Then they can go ahead and roll that machine back. Now, if it's a PC, they can roll it back. Because of the way the Mac operating system is designed, that can't be rolled back, but it can be disconnected, and we can remediate it and contain it, right? That's one of the most important things. In addition to this endpoint protection, and in order to address the business email compromise that we were talking about, if your organization has Office 365, bundled with it, included, is what we call the Risk Watch. Now, this is something that is, again, behavior-based. So not only does it have really good security built into it, but it watches for behavior that's completely abnormal. And one of my favorite example of that is the impossible travel. That's the second one to the bottom of the list there. So what happens is our Security Operations Center is watching, and all of a sudden they get an alert that John at the plumbing office just signed into his Office 365 account in North Carolina like he normally would, but 5 minutes later he signed into his account from Romania. And they're like, well, wait a minute here. That's impossible travel. There's no way. So they have all of these parameters set up that will kick off those alerts that are the number one indicator of some kind of compromise to that email account. So all of the things listed here are 24/7 alerts from the Security Operations Center.
Joy,
And then
if I may, if you can back up real quick on that one. One thing also that we see happen a lot that will never set off any alarms is when someone does get phished and they unknowingly give out their credentials to a hacker and they get logged into Office 365. Typically what happens is the hacker goes in and starts writing rules to do things like forwarding email to another outside account and deleting any history of anything happening. And they create these rules, and that's very frustrating for us because first off, the user gave their credentials out, so that means valid credentials are being used, so no alarms are going to be set off, and these rules are getting created in the background, so the user never sees them. They don't know anything's happening. But if you notice in this risk watch, the rules are fourth from the bottom, is these rules are being watched by the SOC, by the Security Operations Center. So if something odd starts happening like that, then we get alerts and we can take action on it rather than finding out days later that all these emails have been routed and even perhaps sent fraudulently, asking people to wire money to you using a bad bank account. It happens. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we're addressing the ransomware and the business email compromise. The two biggest things we're just knocking right out. You know, the Security Operations Center, the whole reason for it is that providers like ComTech don't have the manpower and, you know, frankly, a huge pool of skill set in cybersecurity to be able to manage this themselves. So the Security Operations Center is US based. And what they've done is they've gone through and they've automated a tremendous amount of all of those back-end alerts. So being able to kind of quiet out the noise, because what you may not realize is there's something like 400,000 alerts to come out per day for the average business. And a lot of those are legitimate alerts that have been misclassified. So our SOC has gone through and automated knowing which ones are just noise, that they don't need to be involved, and then really zeroing in on these are the ones that we need to take some kind of action or investigate further. And like I said, it's 24/7. So what they do is they have quieted down all of the noise behind all of that suspicious activity. be able to determine what is suspicious activity, right? Go through the analysis and say, all right, so according to the storyline, remember that I told you that the EDR solution has the ability to create a timeline to see what cause happened throughout it. That's what this picture is right here. Is they're watching, oh, well, okay, this behavior happened that's not normal behavior. Yes, we're going to say that this is an actual incident that's happening. And then they work to, number one, find out, stop it, contain it, remediate it, and roll it back if necessary. So they partner with ComTech to be able to do those things so that, number one, ComTech is not having to have a 24/7 staff of security experts fully managing and helping with all of these solutions that need to be brought in as a base layer of really good cybersecurity. So wanted to open it up. We just walked through a lot of information, and I wanted to give you the opportunity, Mike, to wrap that up and then see if we have any questions that we can help answer.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we created a bundle. This is over 6 months in creation, organizing relationships with companies like Connectwise and Joy to bring together these advanced detections, the Security Operations Center, training, dark web monitoring. There's just a ton of different features that are built into this that are really needed to lock down a network these days. They're just what's needed. So we put together this bundle. We call it our Advanced Security Bundle. And again, a lot of you may have already seen the emails and the explainer video and so forth, but sometimes hearing it live like we're doing right now is a great venue to get questions answered. And if you haven't seen any of this, either you missed the email or somehow you weren't on our list. I don't know. But either way, we can fix that. We'd love to do that assessment for you. And like Joy said, this is just education. This is not a sales thing. We just want to see our users protected. It literally pained me and my staff, not just because of the 100 hours we spent at that CPA firm, but just seeing those folks going through what they were going through. It's a nightmare. And we've seen it time and time again when the security levels are not where they need to be, and then someone gets hit and we have to do damage control. And so many times it could have been prevented. And that's the point that we're trying to make here. And like Joy said, what our mission is try to protect small business, and that's pretty much our role. So if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A and we'll be happy to answer them. You know how to reach me. If you need to, send me an email, give me a call. I will gladly help you out with anything that you need, explaining any of this. But right now, the floor is open. Does anyone have any questions? As a matter of fact, we only have about 25 people here. So let me see if I can, well, I was going to see if I could unmute everybody.
There we go. Where exactly is the gold bullion in your house?
I should have known that'd come from Scotia. There you go. You got to find my house first. If I could find it, that would be great.
Yeah, do you know when I did that exercise on walking through what's valuable in your home with somebody last week, they said what's valuable right now is toilet paper. And boy, did we laugh. Oh man, the whole COVID thing, it's still happening, you know?
Yeah, sure enough, sure enough. Well, I'm hoping the lack of questions here means that the explainer video that I sent out last week did a pretty good job. So, but if I don't see any other questions here in the next minute, then, or next few seconds, I guess we'll wrap this up and get done a little bit early. And I really appreciate everybody joining us today. I hope you enjoyed Joy being able to join us. It's great knowing people all across the U.S. that have resources like they do, and that right here in little old Alamance County, we can help, we can take advantage of those.
Absolutely. Now, I know Dave did ask, now that they know they need to make some adjustments, what's the first step? So I know you're going to have some follow-up. You know, for me, the most important thing is that people understand and can make an informed decision. That's all we're asking, is make an informed decision. And that's why the role of educating is so important. If you're going to end up saying no, that's fine. But now Mike and his team have been able to do what they need to do to educate you as to why it is so crucial.
Sure, sure. It's just a risk assessment is really all it is. I mean, if you could have a multi-million-dollar company that makes toothpicks and you only have one computer, your risk is not that big. But if you're a financial consultant or a CPA firm or whatever, then your risk is much larger. And if you've got a lot of computers, it just got even more. If you have people working from home, you just got even more. So your risk level just keeps expanding. If you don't have enterprise class email, if you don't have enterprise filtering on it, then again, that scope just keeps getting bigger and you've got a bigger target on your back. So typically the first steps that we do is that assessment. We take a look at what you have. We have to identify what do you have now, and then where are the holes, and then what do we need to do? And in what degree do we need to do it? And then at least then it's like Joy said, it's okay if you don't do it, but at least the thing that we want to avoid for everybody is, I thought I had this, or I thought I had that. That's the last thing you want to find out after your house just burned down, that you thought you had fire insurance. You don't want that to happen. So this is an education. That's all it is.
And I see that Hunter's asking also, it's like, what is phishing and what are some easy tips to identify the emails that are false? And then he also asked, what are some dead giveaways that folks need to look for? And I would say that as a part of the risk assessment, that's why that's so important, because depending on what kind of email you use and what kind of staff you have, what kind of business you're in, security awareness training around, specific for your industry, whether it's online training, should you be testing your staff, like sending some fake emails that aren't going to deploy malware, but just to see who's clicking on them. There's solutions out there that will do that kind of thing that Mike and his team can talk to you about. Also, just understanding on that overall risk assessment and the grid of all of the different solutions, where those things would fit for you. So some dead giveaways that you're asking for. The reason that's kind of hard to answer is I don't know what kind of business you have. I don't know where your biggest risks lie. And I'd like to know what kind of threats would be more specific to you and your kind of business before I answer that. And that's the whole point of the risk assessment, is sitting down and walking through to make sure that, there's not a blanket answer for everybody. I will tell you that when it comes to phishing, there's like all kinds of, I'm going to say 6 or 7 key indicators to watch for on emails. And that's information that Mike and his team have to share with you. You can start with that, start with training your staff, but you have to start somewhere. I'd start with the risk assessment and then see what level you need for each of those things, if at all.
Absolutely. And we do include those things in the security bundle. You can see on the slide there about halfway down. We include training for your staff. It only takes about 2 minutes per week. Now, we're not consuming a lot of time. We're not sending them to school or anything. We're just trying to give them what would be called drip learning. We're just giving them a little drip every week, so it keeps security in their mind and they know what the latest threats are, so they know how to identify phishing attacks and things of that nature. Because it's if you think about it, how in the world could you hold your employee responsible for clicking on something or doing something they shouldn't if you never told them what a threat was?
Yeah. And you need to know who the weak links are in your business so that you can really make sure to focus on them to get them more education.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, that looks like that was the last of the questions, unless somebody chimes in real quick here. And so I think we can finish up on a Friday afternoon and go enjoy some of the sunshine. So
fantastic.
Thank you so much, Joy. I really appreciate you doing this and making time for us. We're just small fish out here in North Carolina compared to you guys, but I appreciate the time and dedication you gave to us.
Anytime, Mike. You're doing a great job, and we're really happy that you're taking the time to educate your clients. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Everybody, have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye now.